The most profound contracts aren't written in ink, but etched in shared moments that fade like whispers in a storm. Sometimes the legal bond is a shadow of the emotional tie that once burned with a fire so bright it promised to illuminate forever. To possess a person in law is not to possess their heart, and it is the heart that truly matters in the quiet hours of the night. The echo of I do can reverberate through halls of legality, but the silence of I remember can be deafening. There's a haunting beauty in the space between what is promised and what is felt, a vast expanse where memories drift like lost stars. Legal ownership can define boundaries, but it cannot dictate the ebb and flow of affection, the subtle shifts of the soul. We build our lives on the foundation of shared memories, and when those foundations crumble, even the strongest structures tremble. The law can bind bodies, but it cannot tether minds or hearts. Those remain free to wander through the gardens of remembrance. To yearn for a memory is to yearn for a piece of oneself, a fragment of a story that once seemed destined to last forever. Sometimes the greatest prisons are not built of stone, but of unspoken words and forgotten promises. The legal framework may define the relationship, but it is the invisible threads of emotion that weave the tapestry of our connection. To hold someone legally is not to hold their essence, their spirit, the very thing that made them feel like home. The heart remembers what the mind chooses to forget, a silent witness to the passage of time and the erosion of connection. There's a poignant ache in realizing that the person you knew is now a stranger, bound by law but distant in spirit. The weight of legal obligation can feel light compared to the burden of lost intimacy, the silent grief of a fading bond. We navigate the present with the maps of our past, and when those maps are torn, we find ourselves lost in familiar landscapes. The legal agreement is a shell, and within it, the heart either flourishes or withers, depending on the nourishment of shared experience. To be legally bound is to be tethered, but to be emotionally connected is to soar together, a flight of shared dreams and aspirations. The law may define the terms, but it is the unspoken language of love that gives meaning to the contract. Sometimes the most painful distance is not physical, but the vast chasm between what was and what is. The legal document is a snapshot, but life is a moving picture, constantly evolving and changing, often beyond our control. To wish for remembrance is to wish for the rekindling of a flame, a beacon in the darkness of emotional detachment. The weight of legally mine can feel crushing when the warmth of emotionally present is absent. We are bound not by paper, but by the invisible threads of shared experiences, the memories that weave our lives together. The legal bond can be a cage if the heart is not free to love, to cherish, to remember. To yearn for a remembered past is to seek a lost melody, a harmony that once filled the air with joy. The legal contract is a framework, but the true architecture of a relationship is built on mutual respect and understanding. Sometimes the greatest acts of love are not declarations, but the quiet, persistent effort to remember. The law may define the parameters, but it is the heart that sets the boundaries of true connection. To be legally bound without emotional resonance is to exist in a silent theater, watching a play where the actors have forgotten their lines. We are not defined by legal documents, but by the stories we tell ourselves and the memories we hold dear. The legal tie can be a ribbon, but it is the shared soul that creates the unbreakable knot. To wish for remembrance is to wish for a bridge across the river of time, a connection to a past that feels lost. The weight of legal obligation can feel like a stone, while the lightness of remembered joy can feel like a feather. We are bound not by ink on paper, but by the indelible marks of shared laughter, tears, and experiences. The legal framework may provide security, but it is the emotional bond that provides solace. To be legally bound without emotional connection is to live in a house without windows, unable to see the beauty of the world outside. The heart's longing for remembrance is a silent plea, a whisper in the wind that seeks to be heard. We are not defined by legal definitions, but by the depth of our emotional connections. The legal contract is a map, but it is the heart that navigates the terrain of love and memory. To wish for remembrance is to wish for a return to a place where the heart felt truly at home. The weight of legally mine can feel like a burden when the lightness of emotionally understood is absent. The silent language of shared glances can hold more truth than any legal declaration. To seek the past within another's eyes is to search for a reflection that may have changed with time. Emotional geography shifts, and the landmarks of the heart can become unfamiliar even in known territories. The most binding agreements are those written on the soul, not those signed with a pen. To feel legally secured yet emotionally adrift is to navigate a sea of contradictions. The echoes of former intimacies can haunt the present, creating a ghost of what once was. To wish for a return to a specific emotional climate is to long for a season that may never return. Legal definitions can create boundaries, but emotional currents can erode them. The weight of unspoken feelings can anchor a relationship or pull it beneath the surface. To seek validation in legal terms is to look for warmth in a cold, hard fact. The art of remembering together is a delicate dance where steps can become misremembered. To find yourself living beside a stranger you once knew intimately is a unique form of solitude. The space between legal obligation and emotional longing can become a vast, uncrossable divide. To yearn for the spark of recognition is to seek a flame that may have dimmed to embers. The legal framework can provide structure, but it cannot instill the breath of life into a relationship. To feel legally owned, but emotionally orphaned, is a paradox that weighs heavy on the spirit. The silent conversations of the heart often speak louder than any courtroom declaration. To search for the familiar in a changed landscape of emotions is a poignant quest. The legal bond can be a tether, but it cannot enforce the rhythm of two hearts beating in unison. To wish for a shared memory is to seek a common ground that may have shifted beneath your feet. The weight of legal possession can feel like an empty crown when the heart's kingdom is lost. To feel the absence of emotional presence is to experience a silence that resonates with loss. The legal contract may define the terms, but it cannot dictate the language of the soul. To seek the reflection of a past love in the present is to chase a shadow that may have faded. The legal tie can bind, but it cannot mend the fragile threads of emotional trust. To feel legally held, yet emotionally released, is a contradiction that creates inner turmoil. The silent dialogues of forgotten moments can echo through the halls of the present. To search for the warmth of a former connection is to seek a fire that may have turned to ash. The legal document can provide a foundation, but it cannot build the walls of emotional intimacy. To wish for the return of a shared feeling is to long for lost emotional climate. The weight of legal obligation can feel like a heavy cloak when the warmth of emotional connection is gone. To feel the hollowness of legal possession is to experience the emptiness of a gilded cage. The silent language of fading affection can speak volumes without uttering a word. To seek the echo of a past intimacy is to chase a sound that may have dissipated. The legal bond can provide a framework, but it cannot paint the canvas of shared emotions. To wish for the revival of a lost connection is to hope for a garden to bloom in barren land. The weight of legal ownership can feel like a burden when the lightness of emotional freedom is lost. To feel the emptiness of legal security is to experience the desolation of an emotional void. The silent stories of forgotten moments can whisper through the corridors of the present. To seek the ghost of a past love is to chase a phantom that may have vanished. The legal tie can provide a structure, but it cannot weave the tapestry of shared experiences. To wish for the rekindling of a lost flame is to yearn for a light in the darkness. The weight of legal obligation can feel like a chain when the freedom of emotional connection is lost. To feel the isolation of legal confinement is to experience the solitude of an emotional prison. The silent narratives of fading memories can resonate through the chambers of the heart. To seek the shadow of a past relationship is to chase a memory that may have blurred. The legal bond can provide a shell, but it cannot nurture the growth of emotional intimacy. To wish for the restoration of a lost bond is to hope for a broken bridge to mend. The weight of legal possession can feel like a stone when the lightness of emotional understanding is absent. To feel the emptiness of legal assurance is to experience the desolation of an emotional desert. The silent echoes of forgotten promises can reverberate through the chambers of the soul. To seek the reflection of a past self in another's eyes is to chase a mirage that may have dissolved.